Hey everyone, welcome back to Southern Gal True Crime. I share missing persons, cold cases, current true crime in the news, and more. Hello, hello. Well, today is our Missing Person Monday video. Today I have 5 cold case missing persons from Kentucky. All the information, the basic information comes from the Charley Project, and then on some of them, I have some additional information from interviews with family members that I will read to you. So let's get started. Our first missing person is Sharon Rose Apgar. Sharon went missing on November 19th, 1999 from Fort Mitchell, Kentucky. She is considered endangered missing. She's a white female, 33 years old, 5'3" to 5'6", and 100 pounds. She was last seen wearing a long-sleeved hunter green blouse, blue jeans, black combat boots, and possibly several rings on her fingers, including a gold horseshoe ring and a ring with a large pink stone. Now, she did have a history of prescription substance addiction, although at the time she disappeared, she was in recovery. She has blonde hair and blue eyes. She has a tattoo of a rose on her left breast and a tattoo of a heart with a ribbon imprinted with the names Joshua, Michael, Michael Thomas, Michael Leon, and Sherry George on her right shoulder. She has a scar on her right wrist and a burn scar on her right calf. Her nickname is Sherry, and her married name is George. So, Sherry was residing at her mother's home in Newtonville, Ohio in 1999. She left her mother's residence on November 18th of 1999, and she was last seen the next day by friends at the Cross Country Inn, which is now the Super 8, in the 2300 block of Royal Drive in Fort Mitchell, Kentucky. She left the hotel apparently to meet her ex-husband, Mike George, and she has never been heard from again. And she left her son behind when she vanished. So whenever I hear, and I know a lot of you guys have commented too, that a mother would not leave, in most cases, a mother would not leave her child behind. So to me, that is a red flag to me. But a lot of times, unfortunately, with anybody who has a substance addiction, it's just hard to kick. And sometimes, and not blaming the victim or the missing at all, but sometimes that need to satisfy that addiction is just so overwhelming that it just trumps everything in your life, and possibly up, to your children. So apparently George and Sherry had a stormy relationship, and he was involved with a motorcycle gang based in Cincinnati, Ohio. George was in prison twice in the 1990s, and he had just been released from custody when Sherry disappeared. Another red flag, in my opinion. Sherry was reportedly very afraid of him and his gang associations, and she had told her family to contact police if they did not hear from her every day. So another big red flag, obviously. She was afraid of him. She maybe hadn't thought that he would do something to her, being as she told her family, if you don't hear from me every day, call the police because something has happened. George disappeared at the same time that Sherry did, and her family believes that he may have been involved in her disappearance, but law enforcement authorities have not identified him as a suspect. They would like to speak with him, however. He is described as a brown-haired, blue-eyed man. He was 36 years old at the time of he and Sherry's disappearance. He is 5'9" tall and weighs 170 pounds. And it says that photographs of him are unavailable. Although police have found no hard evidence of foul play in Sherry's case, her family stated that she had been afraid for her life prior to her disappearance, and they believe that she was the victim of a homicide. Sherry's parents have unfortunately both passed away after her disappearance, and her son is now in the military, and her case remains unsolved. So if you have any information regarding Sherry's disappearance, possibly what happened to her, contact the Clermont County Sheriff's Office at 513-732-7545. And I do have some additional information on Sherry. Let me bring it up. And this article is from August of 2020, and it is from fox19.com. I'll put a link to all the sources, news articles, and the Charley Project that I used in the description box. The headline says, renewed push for answers in case of Clermont County woman who vanished in 1999. Desperate for answers in his mother's 1999 disappearance, a man is using social media to shine a spotlight on her case. Sharon Rose Apgar disappeared on November 19, 1999. Investigators said the 33-year-old was last seen at a hotel in Fort Mitchell, Kentucky, though she lived in Clermont County at the time. Sherry's son, Joshua Dunn, says he was only 16 years old when she vanished. He describes his mother as a fun-loving person with a heart of gold. He says, my mom was a great soul. She was a good person. She always had the best of intentions. She would do anything for anybody, and it's just a sad, horrible situation. Initial reports indicated Apgar was going to meet her ex-husband, who had connections to a motorcycle club, when she vanished. Clermont County Sheriff's Office deputy said Apgar's ex has been a, quote, person of interest in the case, but he is not the only one. Dunn says, her son says, my stepdad wasn't an angel by any means. I think there's a few people who know exactly what happened. Dunn says he had a hard time dealing with his mother's disappearance. He ended up joining the military, which he says helped him cope with the heartbreak. He has since retired from the service and says his new focus is finding out what happened to his mother. It's just one of those things I need to know, he said. I need closure, and now it seems like the time. More than 20 years after Apgar was declared missing, Dunn says he is using social media to spread the word about her unsolved case and urge people who may know something to come forward, even if they are afraid. Absolutely. We always say, if you see something, say something. If you know something, say something. And a lot of times in these cold cases, the longer they go on, the more years that pass between the time that the victim disappeared. Sometimes people are more willing to come forward and say something. Maybe some of the people that may have been involved in the case may have passed away, or no longer they're no longer a threat to anybody who may know something, and they will be more willing to come forward and tell what they know. He says, it would just help me and my family tremendously if we could just get some closure. Even if I had somewhere that I could go to remember my mom, put some flowers down, just even talk to her, that is my ultimate goal. Apgar's mother has since passed away, but after Sherry disappeared, her mother told news reporters that Sherry has said that she was scared for her life. Investigators said some of the people involved in the case have refused to speak with detectives. They are hoping they might change their mind. Going back to the more years that pass, people may feel more comfortable, safer coming forward. So anybody, once again, with information on Sherry's case is asked to call the Clermont County Sheriff's Office at 513-732-7545. Right, next we have, let me find him. We have Geoffrey David Apke. Geoffrey went missing on April 10th, 2000 from Covington, Kentucky. He is also classified as endangered missing. He is a white male. He was 24 years old at the time he disappeared. He would now be 48. At the time he disappeared, he was 6'5", 180 pounds. He was last seen wearing a white shirt and jeans. He has brown hair and blue eyes. It says his hair was long at the time of his 2000 disappearance, and he may have a mustache, a beard, or a goatee. He does have a scar on his right wrist. His nickname is Jeff, spelled Geoff. He was a smoker at the time of his disappearance. So Jeff resided with his parents in Florence, Kentucky in 2000. He lost his driver's license due to a drunk driving conviction in 1998, but his driving privileges were reinstated in March of 2000. He bounced several checks in 1997, but he paid his fines, and the total amounts due by April of 2000. His relationship with his girlfriend of 3 years ended in early March of 2000. And according to his loved ones, he does not have the type of personality which could be brought down by such events. So in other words, I'm assuming they're saying even with the legal problems he was having and the breakup with the girlfriend, his personality, he wouldn't be depressed or, not have any ideations of self-harm. He would maybe, just go, accept it, process it, and move on. Jeff's family members said that he was planning to turn his life around in April of 2000. He had secured employment as a garage door installer and even said that he was planning to quit smoking. His parents last saw him in the evening of April 7th after they had dinner together. George said he was going to meet, Jeff said he was going to meet friends to play pool. He told his family that he would return to the residence by 10 p.m. as he was scheduled to begin work the following morning. Jeff did call home twice later in the evening. The last time was at approximately 11 p.m. He told his mother he would be returning later than expected. His family has never seen him again. They stated that it was not unusual for him to leave without warning, and they were not initially concerned about his lack of immediate contact. His employer called his residence on April 9th and said that he never reported to work as scheduled. He was at the Strauss House on Main Street in Covington, Kentucky during the evening hours of April 9th. His friends told authorities that he was celebrating the reinstatement of his driver's license. Jeff's former girlfriend was also at the bar and said that he was drinking heavily during the night. According to a private investigator hired by his family, he may have taken doses of the tranquilizer Valium in addition to alcoholic beverages, which alcohol and any kind of substances are never a good combination. He was last seen as he departed from Strauss House at approximately 2:30 a.m. on April 10th, which was the bar's closing time. George was driving his grandmother's silver 1974 Newport at the time of his disappearance. The car was discovered abandoned at approximately 3:20 a.m., less than 1 hour after Jeff departed from the Strauss House. The vehicle had been wrecked and was located in Boone County, Kentucky, on an Interstate 275 bridge heading towards Indiana, and there was no sign of Jeff at the scene. So in my opinion, my scenario, and I'm going to read some more information that kind of lends to this scenario, but please, in comments, let me know what you guys think. It was reported that he had been drinking heavily. He had allegedly taken some substances mixed with the alcohol, got in the car to drive. It is possible that he had a wreck on the bridge, because it does say that there was a high drop off from the bridge to the water below. But it does say there were no indications that Jeff took his own life. And according to his family's private investigator, no one noticed any behavioral changes in Jeff prior to his disappearance, and no one thought that he might have a self-harm ideations. So an extensive search of the surrounding area produced no clues as to Jeff's whereabouts. A passing motorist told authorities that the driver of the wrecked car, his Chrysler Newport, entered. Now this is interesting, red flaggy. This passerby said that he saw the driver, meaning possibly Jeff, entered an unidentified Jeep Cherokee by the roadside shortly after the car crashed. So maybe, because at first I thought maybe he had accidentally, maybe if he was stumbling around after the crash between alcohol, the other substance, he could have hit his head during the crash. He may have been stumbling around and accidentally fell over the bridge. And I'm sure that authorities searched, they did do extensive searches, didn't find any sign of him. So possibly he got into this Jeep Cherokee for a ride back into town or wherever to call his family or friends or somebody to come pick him up to let them know what happened. And possibly something happened after that, if this story is indeed credible from this witness. Investigators do not know if Jeff chose to leave his home voluntarily or if other factors were involved in this case. It is possible that Jeff feared that he may have problems with law enforcement and his loved ones after the crash and decided to leave of his own accord. It is unknown if foul play was involved in his disappearance. Jeff never claimed his final paycheck from his previous employer before his disappearance. He has work experience working as a cook in restaurants, and obviously his case is unsolved. So we have, in my opinion, a couple of theories. First one I mentioned, he was disoriented after the wreck, possibly could have fallen over into the river. We all know how hard it is to find somebody in the water. We have the witness that said they saw him entering this Jeep Cherokee, got a ride. Possibly something nefarious happened during that, or the third theory, like I said, is possible he, with all the trouble he had already been in, with losing the license, although he had gotten it back, and with this crash, because he had been drinking, he may have thought, I'm in big trouble now. I'm just gonna, maybe hide out for a while. So there are lots of scenarios, but please, once again, let me know what you guys think about this one. All right, and I think I do have an article with some interviews with family members, and this is from April of 2021. It says, I think about it every day. North Kentucky man's disappearance, a mystery 21 years later. Authorities in Boone County continue to ask for help finding a missing man 21 years after he vanished under mysterious circumstances. Geoffrey Apke was last seen on Main Street in Covington on April 9th of 2000. He was at the bar with his friends, according to the Boone County Sheriff's Office. Then somehow his car ended up wrecked on an Interstate 275 bridge. Geoffrey's family no longer expects him to come back, but they still want to know what happened to him. I think about it every day, Helen Apke told Fox 19 Now Friday. I do think about him every day. And Alyne is Geoffrey's mother. Is he injured? Was he injured? Does he know who he is? She says that creeps in occasionally. At the time of Geoffrey's disappearance, Alyne says they really started to worry when it transpired neither his friends nor his work had heard from him. She says something's not right here, she said, recalling her thinking back then. She says he wouldn't do this. He would not take off on his own. Boone County investigators say Geoffrey's car was found wrecked early the following morning on the I-275 bridge heading toward Indiana. It's a bridge Alyne says that she gets anxious crossing to this day. So that's what I was saying about if I have no idea how had no idea how tall the bridge was, how much water, but she says according to his mother that she has anxiety crossing it. So I'm going to go on the assumption from that it was a pretty high bridge, possibly lots of water under it. So it is possible that he did possibly accidentally stumble and fall over, and they just unfortunately have not been able to find him in the water. That's just my opinion, just one scenario. Lieutenant Philip Ridgel with the BCSO said, "We can't say definitively that Jeff was driving the car when it wrecked." That's also another possibility. It could have been somebody else driving. Ridgel explains investigators are still trying to figure out what happened that April night, and they have not ruled out foul play. Alyne says she can't think of anyone who would want to hurt Geoffrey. Ridgel adds they did collect DNA from Geoffrey's family in 2019, hoping to get a match. We were really, really hoping that with the gap in time of 20 years and updating the system, because that was not in there, we would get something, but unfortunately they have got nothing. Geoffrey, as of this article, would be 45 today. Alyne says she wants people to remember him for his big personality and love of skateboarding. She says, "I miss his laughter." Geoffrey was 6'5" tall, 180 pounds when he disappeared. He had a scar on his right wrist. If you have any information, once again, into his disappearance, you are asked to call the Boone County Sheriff's Office. And I believe I gave you, and the number is on the slide there. Next, we have Orla Alyne J. Barrick. Orla went missing on April 12, 1996 from Mammoth Cave, Kentucky. Once again, classified as endangered missing. She's a white female. She was 61 years old at the time she disappeared. She would be 89 today. At the time she disappeared, she was 5'5" and 120 pounds. She was last seen wearing a blouse and denim shorts. She has gray hair and green eyes. She does have a surgical scar on her back. She did smoke. She wore dentures, but she had left her dentures behind when she disappeared. She goes by her middle name, Alyne, and many agencies refer to her as Alyne Barrick, and her maiden name is Lawrence. So Orla was last seen walking her Pomeranian dog on Laurel Ridge Road in rural Mammoth Cave, Kentucky on April 12, 1996. She had a short conversation with a local resident at approximately 2 p.m., and she has never been heard from again after that. Aylene's neighborhood mostly consisted of vacation homes. She only had 2 permanent neighbors, so a very small, tight-knit community. So you would think that any strangers that may have came in to the community would have been noticed. Any strange vehicles, any strange occurrences would most definitely have been noticed, you would think. One of her neighbors reported her missing 3 days later after realizing that she had not been out to walk her dog in several days. When the police went to Aylene's home, the lights were off and the doors were all locked, but there were indications of a struggle. A sofa in the living room was pushed out of place, and the living room carpet was bloodstained. In the bedroom, the bed's fitted sheet was missing, and other bedclothes were piled on top of the mattress, which was bloodstained, or the bedclothes are bloodstained. A glass that normally sat on the nightstand was on the floor. The amount of blood present at the scene was small, and they said it was not enough to indicate that she had passed away. There was no sign of Alyne. Besides her fitted bed sheet, the only other item missing from inside her home was her clutch purse. Her dentures were soaking in their container. There was a burned out cigarette on the bathroom shelf. The lights were turned off, and her dog was locked in its crate. She normally took the trash out every evening, but the bag of trash was found on top of her kitchen counter. The $400 in cash that she kept in her freezer was still there, but the key that she normally kept hidden in one of those fake rocks outside of her house was missing. Her truck was parked nearby with the house keys inside of it, and the truck keys were inside the house. So that's very strange to me. The house keys were inside the truck, but the truck keys were inside of the house. So you guys let me know what you think about that. It's very strange. It appeared as if Alyne had been getting ready for bed when she was doing her nighttime routine and had been suddenly interrupted. Alyne at the time was a widow. She lived alone. She enjoyed fishing and growing roses. She was an accomplished seamstress who made her 4 children's clothes when they were young. She was reportedly dating a younger man, but her family didn't know the man's name. Another red flag for me. According to her family, the fact that Alyne had taken her dentures out prior to her disappearance indicated that she was not expecting anyone to come visit, as she would never let anyone see her without her dentures. In spite of this, both her loved ones and the police believed that she was attacked by somebody that she knew. I'm going to go on the assumption, because I'm not a professional in any way, but that is what I would think is her door was locked. So you'd think, even though, and then she had the key hidden in the fake rock, which on one hand, it could indicate it was somebody that she knew that knew where the rock was, used the key to open the door and come in. And if she knew them, it wouldn't have really, it might have taken her by surprise, but it might not have made her suspicious or, think that something bad was going to happen. But then again, there are offenders, intruders out there who are unfortunately, smart enough to know to look for things like the hidden keys and the fake rocks. Because usually, I know back in the day, they may have been improved now, but back in the day, those fake rocks were very easy to distinguish. So, two scenarios. But the family does think that it is possibly somebody that she knew. Lost my place. So her family suspects a handyman that she had hired. So if it was a handyman working around the house, he most likely would have known where the key was hidden in the fake rock. This person has not been publicly named, and authorities haven't said whether he is a suspect, but they said they had a suspect as someone who left the area right after Alyne went missing. And apparently they have not publicly named this person either. Foul play is suspected in her case, which is being treated as a homicide, and authorities believe that her body may be buried in a shallow grave in the woods near her home. So, it doesn't say whether or not they have searched or used any kind of equipment, like the ground penetrating radar in recent years, to see if they find any remains, or brought they probably, if I was to guess, they probably did bring cadaver dogs out there, possibly. I believe I do have some additional information with Aylene's family. This is from NBC News. It is from April of 2018. It says, family searching for answers on the 22nd anniversary of the disappearance of Alyne J. Lawrence Barrick. Alyne J. Lawrence Barrick was an organized woman who stuck to her routine. She was a widow since 1992. She lived alone in her cabin near Nolan River Lake in Edmonson County, Kentucky, with her Pomeranian named Fifi. For Alyne, Friday, April 12th, 1996 began like any other day. Alyne, 61, woke up. She went to a chiropractic appointment. Kentucky State Police told Dateline. After her appointment, Alyne went to a tanning salon and then stopped by the house of the handyman that she had hired. Then, according to her daughter, Kay Biggers, Alyne went home. She was supposed to spend the weekend with her brother, Pete Jackson, in Frankfort, Kentucky, but called her sister-in-law to tell her that she was not coming, and she gave no explanation as to why she was not coming. Once again, I find that very interesting, red flaggy. Around 2:30 p.m. that day, Alyne took her dog Fifi for a walk in her neighborhood near Mammoth Cave National Park. We have so many people, we talk about this a lot, that go missing close to national parks. The gated community consisted of a few cabins, but most of the neighbors were seasonal vacationers, Kay told Dateline. Police told Dateline that during her walk, Alyne saw some teenagers who were staying at a cabin nearby, and she stopped for a casual conversation with them. Police would later learn that when Alyne went home, she began with her bedtime routine. She had closed her blinds, put a clean trash bag out to take out her old trash, and lit a cigarette. However, the routine seems to have been interrupted rather abruptly. Alyne's cigarette would later be found burned down into the bathroom counter, and her bottom dentures were in the cup she used to clean them, and her top dentures were missing. So the bottom dentures were still there in the cup, but the top dentures were missing, possibly still in her mouth when she was taken or whatever happened to her. That's just what I would assume. If she had cleaned her top teeth, she put them back on because nobody ever saw her without her teeth, period, Kay told Dateline. One of Alyne's neighbors became concerned when he did not see her walking Fifi over the weekend. That Monday, 3 days after she was last seen, the neighbor contacted the Edmonson County Sheriff's Office to report his concern. After searching Alyne's home and contacting her friends and family who had not seen Alyne, a missing persons report was filed. Kentucky State Police Detective Jason Lanham, previously a lead detective on Alyne's case, said the police who responded to the call said there was no sign of forced entry into Alyne's home. Once again, we go back to the key that was hidden in the fake rock that was missing. Or that was, actually, I think they said it was, they found the house key in the truck. Kay and her family believe someone Alyne knew may have knocked on her door that night. I wouldn't say that it was somebody that she necessarily knew, Detective Lanham told Dateline, but there is a good chance that it was. Detective Lanham said police found Alyne's car was at her home and her keys were inside her house. Her dog Fifi was in a crate inside the house. Detective Lanham said there were signs of a possible struggle inside the home. We covered that earlier, specifically in the bedroom. Kay believes that Alyne may have been trying to reach a firearm that she kept in her bedside table. Possibly could have been, once again, I'm just, this is my thinking scenario. Could have been the intruder, whoever it was, whether she knew him or not, came in the bedroom. She reached for the firearm. There was a struggle. Gun may have accidentally gone off, or the intruder managed to get the firearm away from her, and there's just possible scenarios. But let me, definitely leave a comment and let me know what you think, or leave the chat is up during this. It is a video premiere, so let me know also in chat what you guys think. Her dog Fifi, okay, so we said that. Kay believes that Lynn may have been trying to reach a gun she kept in her bedside table. There were very small amounts of blood in the bedroom. Detective Lanham told Dateline. Kay says the only items missing from the house were Alyne's purse, the top bed sheet, and Alyne. So, once again, my opinion, my theorizing, something happened to her in the house. Although they said it was a small amount of blood found. Could have been that Alyne was harmed, wrapped up in the sheet, and taken out of the house. Just a possibility, or State police have conducted group searches in the area near her house. They did partially drain lakes and had scuba divers search nearby. We've had cadaver dogs search as late as the fall and winter of 2016, as of this article, Detective Lanham said. Detective Lanham told Dateline the investigation is still ongoing and that while detectives have had some persons of interest, there have been no substantial leads. We haven't had enough evidence or leads to make a true suspect or get enough to charge somebody, Detective Lanham said. As time goes by, you have fewer and fewer people who know her or remember what happened. That's unfortunately another, unfortunate thing with these cold cases. Kay said she and her family suspect Alyne's handyman, whose house she stopped by at on the last day that she was seen, had something to do with her disappearance. So once again, I would theorize, or possible scenario, possibly she could have stopped by to talk to this handyman. Maybe something was wrong. She was not happy with maybe some of the work he had done, or had asked him to do some work and he hadn't got it done yet, and it escalated and he came in. That's, once again, pure speculation and theory on my part. Kay says she believes that the handyman, left the area shortly after Alyne went missing, and he has been arrested since then. Doesn't say what he has been arrested for. Detective Lanham confirmed to Dateline that police did interview the man at the time and that he had served time in Illinois for crimes unrelated to Alyne's disappearance. He did not know if he is still serving time and could not confirm any additional information or release his name to protect the integrity of the case. On the 22nd, as of the writing of this article, anniversary of their mother's disappearance, Kay and her family continue to search for Alyne. It's like having a nightmare that you can never wake up from, Kay told Dateline. She says she hopes to put her mother to rest, adding that Alyne, quote, deserves to be buried and not just thrown away. Absolutely. Alyne would now be the grandmother of 7, 4 girls and 3 boys. Alyne J. Lawrence Barrick would be 84 as of this writing. She was 5'4", white hair and green eyes. If you have any information, once again, please contact the Kentucky State Police at 270-782-2010. Next, we have Sonya Lynn Bradley. Sonya Lynn Bradley went missing on October 10th, 2002 from Eddyville, Kentucky. Once again, endangered missing. 38 years old, white female, 5'7" to 5'8" and 95 pounds. She had been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, lupus, and mitral valve prolapse in January of 2002, 10 months before her disappearance. She was also diagnosed with a brain tumor and was under medical observation for it at the time that she vanished. She is supposed to take daily medication, but did not have it with her when she disappeared. She was reportedly depressed over her health at the time of her disappearance. She has brown hair and green eyes. She has an appendectomy scar and a cesarean section scar on her abdomen. She has multiple tattoos on her arms, including on both upper arms, at the shoulders. Photos of her tattoos are posted in the case summary. You can go to the Charley Project, and it does have pictures of the tattoos. So Sonya was last seen by her boyfriend in Eddyville, Kentucky at around 12:30 p.m. on October 10, 2002. That afternoon, one of her 3 children was involved in a near fatal car accident. When Sonya didn't arrive at the hospital and nobody could find her, they realized that she had disappeared. All of her medication, clothing, cigarettes, and her purse were found in her apartment. A large comforter was, however, missing from her bed. Once again, just like in the case before with Alyne, we have bedclothes missing. And after that, she has never been seen or heard from again. William David West, who was Sonya's boyfriend, has long been considered a person of interest in her disappearance. Bradley's mother stated that when she went to her daughter's apartment to look for her, West cursed at her and would not let her inside. Following her disappearance, he was jailed for substance trafficking. In 2012, West was charged with an unrelated homicide. The grand jury declined to indict him, however, and the charge was ultimately reduced to evidence tampering, a possession of a firearm by a felon. After the prosecution decided West had done that offense, it was self-defense, basically, they said. Sonya was having financial problems because of her medical bills at the time of her disappearance. Her home and furniture had been repossessed a few months before. She had applied for disability payments, but they were not granted until after she had disappeared. Her family does not believe that she would have left of her own accord, especially without her medication, and her case remains unsolved. So if you have any information regarding Sonya's disappearance, her possible whereabouts, what could have happened to her, you can contact the Kentucky State Police at 800-222-5555. I believe I do have an interview with her daughter. Get it to come up. Okay, this article is from March of 2012. Daughters, plural, daughters speak out for the first time about their mother's disappearance. She disappeared from Eddyville nearly 10 years ago. Now Sonya Bradley's daughters are speaking out for the very first time. She knew too much, said Ashley No, Bradley's youngest daughter. That's the whole reason that she is not here. Now keep in mind, this is just the opinions of her daughters. Not saying I don't believe them, but just, full transparency. Ashley No and her sister Heather Fleener share new insight as we learn about changes in the new criminal case against their mother's then boyfriend. We were really upset, said No. A week ago, we were excited, said Fleener. When the family heard their mother's old boyfriend, William David West, was charged with homicide, they had new hope. They believed that he could lead authorities to Sonya. However, Wednesday, as of the writing of this article, all that changed. Charges were amended to tampering with evidence, and his bond was lowered. Yet, a big break could be just days away. As the family say, they're now getting some of the best leads they've had in a decade. Bradley's daughters say they are finally starting to put the pieces together that led up to their mom's disappearance. I see it now, said Heather. Details that I did not see before. Things that now make sense to me. Rooms we were not allowed into and conversations that we heard. When Bradley vanished in October of 2002, Ashley was just 15 years old and Heather was 17 years old. Now in their 20s, they say their heartache turned to hope last week when they learned West sat behind bars charged with a Mayfield man's homicide. They thought maybe West would finally start talking. The sisters believe West knows what happens to their mother. It means everything, said Ashley. Ashley recalls the last time she saw her mother. It was October 9th, the day before Sonya vanished. She walked in on an argument between her mother and West. He was slamming cabinets, and I heard a little of their conversation, said Ashley. Ashley says she confronted her mother and told her to leave West. We said some things that we should not have said Ashley. The next morning, I didn't even go in her room before I left home. The next morning, Heather says she left for the day. She came back to find her little sister had been in a bad car wreck. It's the car wreck that was referred to earlier in the information from the Charley Project. And West was the one to tell her about her sister's car wreck. We no more than get in the door, and Dave's calling my boyfriend's cell phone, saying my sister had a wreck and we needed to do something about my mom, said Heather. Heather says she still doesn't know what West meant by his comment about they needed to do something about their mother. They say their hopes shattered when news broke that West's recent homicide charge had been amended to tampering with evidence. They fear that he will walk this time and take with him any information about their missing mother. They also believe someone they call a, quote, higher power is protecting West. Heather says they just had to look at it. They didn't look because of higher powers. That is what I believe. It's their fault my mama is not here. What's more, they feel their mother was victim of a homicide, and they say it is just the tip of a much bigger crime ring which ties beyond the heartland. There's a lot more people involved here, more than David, more than the higher powers. It is a whole group, said Ashley. Still, it was a big break that brought them home, a break they feel is the best shot they've had so far at finding their mother. I hope we bring her home, said Heather. Cold case investigators say they are doing everything they can to bring this family closure. They are not releasing details about any leads at this time. As for West, his criminal case went before a grand jury, or will go at that time, as of this writing, will go before a grand jury. They said it could happen as early as next week. And at the time, he remained in jail on $10,000 cash bail. So lots of interesting allegations or suspicions, allegations from the daughters that maybe, as I said, as I called it, higher powers, meaning possibly some higher up officials may have tried to sweep it under the rug. I'm not saying that's the case. I'm just going by what was in these articles, and that it could be tied to some kind of organization, operation, possibly, and once again, speculation on my part, possibly substances, trafficking, human, something of that nature. But I will dig deeper into this one to see if I can find out any more information. Please, guys, in the comments, if you're watching replay, let me know what you think about this. In chat, let me know what you think about this. It's very, very, very red flaggy, obviously. All right, the last one we have is Stephen Douglas Bunch. Stephen went missing on December 29th, 1985 from Covington, Kentucky. Once again, endangered missing. He is a white male, 26 years old, 5'5" to 5'7", 180 to 190 pounds. He was last seen wearing a long white overcoat that tied shut, a light blue sports coat, a dark blue long sleeve shirt, dark colored trousers, and white shoes. He has brown hair and blue eyes. He did have a hair replacement at age 19 in order to conceal hair loss. He has a dent-like scar or dimple in his right cheek. Stephen left his hometown of Covington, Kentucky on December 28th, 1985, and went to January's, which is a nightclub in nearby Cincinnati, Ohio. He stayed at the club until around 2 a.m. They said he drank a few beers. When he tried to leave, he discovered that his car battery was dead. It was a rental car, and a friend had taken his own vehicle. So he had the rental car because a friend had taken his vehicle without permission and wrecked it. He got a ride home with a female friend. She said he seemed anxious and kept glancing behind him, nervous because a police car was following them. He did not calm down until the police car ultimately turned off in another direction. His friends dropped him off at his parents' home on Warren Street in Covington, where he lived. His parents were still awake when he got inside. They said he went to his room, stayed only about 5 minutes, then told his mother that he was going out for a while and someone would be picking him up. First question, who I would ask is who picked him up. His father thought that he was behaving oddly, so he followed his son outside and saw him go into the backyard. After that, that was the last sighting of him. Never seen or heard from again. When his family searched a wooded area near their home, they did find the scarf that he had worn that night. His rental car, which had been left inoperable in the nightclub parking lot, later turned up several blocks away from the club. So obviously my question would be, when Stephen left the house that night, did he walk, and I don't know how far it was from, excuse me, quick drink. Sorry about that. I don't know how far it was from his home to where the club was, if it was within walking distance. After he left the house, did he walk back to the club and manage to get his car started? And it says it turned up several blocks away. Did it maybe die again and he abandoned it and started walking? Or did someone else possibly get the car going, moved it, parked it, abandoned it somewhere else? Those are the questions I have. Bunch owned and operated Bunch's Auto Body in the Main Strasse area at the time of his disappearance. He went missing shortly after testifying in a criminal case. Red flag. And there were rumors that he went into a witness protection program, but this was never confirmed. Unfortunately, his father did pass away in 1990, and his mother has since remarried, and his case remains unsolved. So if you have any information regarding Stephen, his possible whereabouts, what may have happened, if you saw anything, contact the Covington Police Department at 859-292-2244. All right, guys, those were our 5 cold case missing persons cases from Kentucky this week. I have a Missing Person Monday every week, so if you have not already, please consider subscribing. Hit the bell to get notifications when I upload new videos or go live. Please, before you leave, give a thumbs up, leave a comment. Share it everywhere you can. The more you share, it helps get this information out to as many people as possible. That is the whole goal, is to get this information out so that these missing are never forgotten. Keep their faces out there, their stories out there. Thank you to everybody who was in the chat during the video premiere. Thank you to everybody who's watching replay. I appreciate you all so much. I will see you next time. Until then, take care of yourselves. Be careful out there. Take care of each other. That is the most important thing we can do. And I will see you next time. Thanks, guys.